You're listening to episode 38, UHF, directed by Levy. Is it a cult classic? Let's find out on this episode of Video Villa Podcast. So today we are going to bring you, I'm guessing what Logan thinks is, or maybe not, a cult classic.
Okay, yeah. I definitely think it is.
Spoiler alert.
Well, we'll be the judge that find out. Watch the episode and find out. But also, before we get into it, Becca's back.
I'm back. I hope you guys... I'm back. I hope you guys enjoyed the last episode. If you haven't seen it yet, or if you have, Logan was joined by Dusty and Paul with Flicks and Friends podcast to review Rainbow First Blood Part 1 and Part 2 to decide which one is best. If you have seen it, thank you for watching. If you haven't, definitely go back and check it out. I believe it was a good episode, but I am biased. So, gun to my head, I have to say that. Just kidding. I really do think it was probably a really good episode.
Yeah,
probably. I don't watch our episodes.
Yeah, she doesn't. I watch. I like our episodes. No offense, but like.
Oh, it has nothing to do with me not liking them. I'm just one and done. I show up and I'm gone.
Yeah, pretty much. You're like a ghost in the night.
Yeah, pretty much. Don't even listen to them. I also I don't want to hear myself talk.
It's not bad though. I get it, but in a degree where it's just like I don't even care about it. Like
you get desensitized to it.
Like, I don't even hear my, I don't ever really think
you don't
hear my southern accent.
You're not the one listening to you talk all the time.
Yeah, whatever.
It's warmed up on me. Until we go to Tennessee and then, your mom and your dad and not kind of your sister, then, I really, really hear it. Yeah. Especially with, the phrases that are used and stuff like that.
Well, Brandon, Haley's husband, he's thick.
Well, yeah, but with his job and stuff, I don't really see him much when we go down there. But yeah, so I'm back, and we are doing a comedy because I will do anything to avoid doing a horror movie. Until the month of October, I save all of them to September, October, and then I watch enough for the whole year, and then we're good.
Yeah,
and then I jump to Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, there's very handsful of movies that are horror that I've actually been able to get Becca to watch, but I am very thankful for the ones she has watched.
I like the classic ones. I don't like what people do in the new horror movies.
Yeah.
I like the classics.
Well, you don't like to be scared, so.
Yeah, I'm anxious enough in my daily life. I don't need to add a little extra in my free time.
Well, there's nothing scary about UHF, so there you go. No. And also, if you don't notice, but we have some Twinkie Wiener sandwiches, and we're actually going to try them at the end of the episode.
We are not.
Stay till the end and find out if the Twinkie Wiener sandwich is delicious or not. At least I will try it. Maybe Becca will warm up over the next hour.
No.
We'll find out.
I won't.
I literally been going over this for days. I'm like, I really want you to try one. I really want you to try one. She's like, I'd rather die.
I didn't say that. No, I'm just not doing that. I'm really not. Anyways, and also, Joe from Movie Dumpster, I feel like that sprinkled a little bit of confidence in you trying this because I feel like he has tried because he did the spicy chip.
Joe and Sean both did the spicy chip. They drank expired Ecto Cooler.
Yeah.
Hey,
Thanks,
everything I've looked up so far that says basically that these are delicious. Every YouTube video I've watched about it, everyone's like, "Oh my God, this works!" I'm actually excited to try them.
Did you think about how delicious they are after they sit here for the next 40 minutes?
You know what? I don't care. I mean, I used to eat cold hot dogs from the fridge as a snack.
Oh yeah, as a kid, the Vienna hot dogs in a little can.
No, I'm talking about my mom was like, "I want a snack."
No, I know that. That's fine. That's bologna at that point.
Yeah, she's just like, "Well, just get a hot dog," and I just walk around with my little hot dog.
I liked my bologna as a kid, and my dad would make me my school lunches. And it was always a bologna and mustard lunch. But on one piece of bread, he'd put a smiley face. And one piece of bread, he'd put a heart. And then he'd put them together. Yes, there are pieces with just bread, but that's fine.
He could have just been saying that. You don't know after he
No,
puts the sandwich
we'd
together.
watch him.
Oh,
Sometimes
okay.
he'd do like a little smiley face, a little something. He did it for me and Casey.
Do you got pictures of that?
No. So funny.
Well, as always, we typically want to wait till the end of the show to ask Becca what she thought. So I'm going to continue to do that. So
I'm still banned.
it's
It's about a 30-day ban.
more than a 30-day ban.
I'll make a comeback.
But so this was your first watching of it. Yeah. So
I mean, I know who Weird Al is. But...
Yeah. Weird Al to be honest, he is literally, he's a genius. He is a comedy genius. And I'm not using that word lightly. I mean, 100% full force. The way he is able to make parody of songs and it sound just like effortlessly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was listening to Running with Scissors before we did this episode, which was that was the most iconic album that I had. And that had, the American Pie cover of Don McLean's. And it was the Star Wars Episode 1 saga, that was the cover of that. He had some Nine Inch Nails on it. This was really around the time after his TV show came out too, as well. And it's also iconic. It was pretty was it Pretty Fly for a Rabbi? I think that was another one that was on there. Obviously, a lot of people know Gangster's Paradise.
Yeah.
His remake of Amish Paradise. And he also, Bad, of course, and I'm Fat and stuff like that. So, like, a lot of people knew who Weird Al was, and his music videos are so funny. And he really is, like, this comedy that is in this film, it's hard not to watch UHF and think SpongeBob, Family Guy.
Yeah, like, what's it called? Like slap comedy or whatever?
Slapstick?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's slapstick comedy. It's also, it is, oh shoot, I forgot what it's called, but it's a type of it's like a hoaxy kind of style comedy. But the thing is the stories themselves are actually very funny. And the little gimmicks that he has throughout the movie, the little one, like I said, like Family Guy or like SpongeBob, like the little, like short little bits of funny stuff. It's great. I mean, the comedy it's stellar. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I can watch this movie and cry laughing over some of the little small bits that are only like 5 seconds long.
Yeah. We watched it 3 times and you laughed every time.
Yes. If you haven't seen this yet, okay, I strongly suggest look up the Town Talk scene. If you haven't seen it, look up Town Talk, okay? Watch that little fake commercial and that'll be everything you need to know about the movie. And like that'll let you know if you're going to enjoy it because that part of the movie is the funniest part of the entire movie. It's hilarious. It has its own section in the notes. And it's just one commercial.
I'll let you cover
that. Yeah, I mean, he is a comedy genius, and the fact that he got to make his own movie is awesome. And like I said, he later would get his own TV show on CBS, the Weird Al Show, which was kind of like a Pee Wee's Playhouse. Mm-hmm. We watched a little bit of that too. Not really my style of a comedy and stuff like that. I felt like the film just had a better storyline and a better way to connect for his comedy tone. But I mean, this movie was, it's a brainchild from him and his manager, Jay Levy. And Harold Holloway also helped write it too as well. So they got together and created this amazing story. I remember watching this when I was little. I mean, I remember it was a Sunday. I was sick and I was in bed all day. And I remember back then, used to have the TV guide that used to come on TV. And I remember it was on TBS and I saw the commercials for it. Like, holy crap, I didn't know Weird Al had a movie. I was like, this is awesome. And it looked hilarious because it was a spoof. That was the word I was looking for, spoof movie.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not a spoof movie, but it uses spoofs in it.
Yeah.
So it's not like a full blown like scary movie or anything like that. It has its own original story. Yeah, it's not a parody. It has its own original storyline. But I couldn't wait to watch. I mean, I wrote it down on the fridge, put a Post-it note on it. I waited week long for it to air. I woke up, got sick, and I remember watching it, but I was like, had a fever. And I felt like dog shit.
Mhm.
And I remember liking it, but I didn't like it as much as I thought it was because I felt so goddamn bad.
Yeah.
But then years later, I had the DVD back in the day.
Years later, I was sick again. I tried watching it again.
No, but years later, as I got older, I had the DVD back in the day before my mom got rid of all my DVDs that I left at the house. But anyway,
Subtle jab.
yeah, it's a little. If you want them, I'm sure someone
Smudging.
found it at Goodwill, where she donated all of them to. But I had the Blu-ray now, and I have the VHS here. Which is funny. I like the VHS because you can always tell when a VHS was the storefront VHS that never moved out of rental store, because that is why it's literally been bleached by the sun. It's all faded and stuff like that. Those are always kind of like, yes, it's not the prettiest VHS, but they're kind of like something special. Like, you knew that sat outside for like, I mean, I don't know.
Longer than these Twinkie sandwiches.
But yeah, so watching it a second time, I mean, I just fell in love with this movie. This movie has always been a part of me. I've always quoted the Spatula City line and stuff. Like, I've just always thought it was funny. It is hands down, when I say cult classic, I definitely think this is 100% a cult classic. It has everything that a cult classic needs. Okay. It came out, all right, in the summer of 1989. Orion Pictures, they did a test screening of this film.
Is it Orion or Orion?
No, it's Orion.
Oh.
They did a test screening of this movie, and it did so well. And at the time, they were a little bit financial trouble, and they really banked on this movie performing very well. So they put it during the summer of 1989. But unfortunately, during that summer, 1989, this being a comedy, it wasn't the best time to actually put it out because we had Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade came out the same summer. We had Ghostbusters 2 come out the same summer. We had Lethal Weapon and Batman came out the same summer. So a lot of movies that were out during that time were more valuable to watch than a comedy because people had already, like, everyone wanted to see the new Batman. Okay. Everyone wanted to see the Ghostbusters 2, and everyone still loved Indiana Jones when it came for Last Crusade.
Yeah.
So no one's going to see a rinky-dink comedy while there's better stuff that's more entertaining to watch at the theater. It closed up after a month. It was only in theaters for 1 month. It did horrible. But it came out, let's call it on tape. And as it was on tape, due to the low ticket sales, they didn't invest a lot of money into producing a lot of the tapes. So to be honest, it went out of print pretty fast. So these tapes, it's not a very expensive tape. I mean, it's $20. Average tape costs about $20. So it's not a very expensive tape, but at the time, it did become a cult classic. People wanted to watch the movie, and they couldn't get their hands on it. They couldn't get their hands on it at all. And this is at the time when, like I said, we only had tapes. DVD wasn't even around yet. So people at the time were selling the tape for $100.
Yeah.
Because people wanted to see this movie, and there's no other way for them to be able to see the movie. And then also, unfortunately, a lot of Orion was a big, big studio. I mean, you got Terminator, you got RoboCop. Literally a couple years later, they do Dances with Wolves, which is, nominated for, I think, 7 Oscars or whatever.
Brian likes that movie.
It's a very good movie. But the thing is this studio made really good films, but they just made a bunch of financial decisions that didn't work in their favor, and they had several flops. And even towards the end with Dances with Wolves, even with it being nominated for so many Oscars, it still couldn't save them because they ended up filing bankruptcy, I believe it was December of 1991. Some people said this movie is the one that actually bankrupt Orion Pictures. I'm not too sure. I couldn't really find any real proof in that. So I wouldn't really say that's true because, I mean, the movie came out in 1989. They didn't go really bankrupt until 1991. So, and now another thing that could have caused the low ticket sales were Weird Al really fought for this movie to be a PG movie, but regardless of the rating board, they would not give them a PG rating. There were certain scenes in the movie, the Going into the librarian scene
Yeah.
was another big scene where they wanted to cut out if they wanted it to be PG, where the guy gets cut in half.
Yeah.
His argument was like, but there's no blood. He just gets cut in half. There's no blood. And then another scene was the wood shop scene with the
Yeah.
thumb. Oh, that was a lot of blood in that. And also the Rambo scenes with people exploding. But with that being said, there is no blood, and you can tell it's foam exploding.
Yeah.
So it's not really graphic. It's just more comical. And I mean, just Weird Al, he would not lose his vision, and he wanted his vision to be seen on theaters. So they unfortunately got a PG-13 rating. So that could have affected some of the people that want to see the movie because kids loved Weird Al too.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, Weird Al was huge. There's a good mockumentary about him, not the new one, but the one from 1985. That one's pretty good. The only bad thing with the mockumentary is like you're watching it and it's funny, but it's like I kind of want a real story. Like I want a real story behind, what happened. I want a real documentary. And then the new one that came out like 2 years ago with Daniel Radcliffe. Once again, it's funny. I don't want it to be funny. I want a real story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I want a walk the line storyline. I want a Ray or whatever. I want a real biopic, not a mockumentary biopic,
Yeah.
to be honest. It sucks because some of the stuff is true, but after all the jokes and stuff, it's hard to differentiate which actually is true, what's not. And I would prefer to actually know the real story instead of like the kind of like funny told story about his
Yeah.
life. I mean, he is like I was telling you when we watched this movie, I was like, I would love to meet Weird Al. Like
Yeah.
I think he actually came to Awesome Con a couple of years ago that we didn't go. That would have been fun to go see him. But
I know I miss Christina Ricci.
yeah, I mean, she'll probably come back. I'm sure. I'm sure.
Bummer. I mean, I do really like her, but
but yeah, like it is funny. So Michael Richards, Kramer gets to play Stanley in the movie, and it's funny that this movie came out right. I think this movie aired before the first episode of Seinfeld actually aired. So like he really at this point like wasn't really known for anything crazy. He was on the show Friday, which was kind of like a Saturday Night Live, which Larry David was a part of, and so forth like that. Jimmy Click has a really funny interview with Larry David. If you don't know Jimmy Click, he was a fake news interviewer played by Martin Short, and he was talking to Larry David. And he's like, "You're on that show Friday, right?" It was like Saturday Night Live, but wasn't funny. If you ever watched the Jimmy Click show, was hilarious. But I'm getting sidetracked. But yeah, he did really great with this movie. Obviously he's been canceled since then. We won't get into that stuff. Said some bad words, had some people in the audience. Some words you're not supposed to use.
That'll do it. I'm one word from doing that on here sometimes. I don't know what he actually did. That's not me claiming I would do what he did. I'll deep dive in it later in my free time.
You're like redacted.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe that's a lot of cool things that I found about the movie. I really enjoyed it. This was a big part of my childhood. It's like when I say childhood, I mean older childhood. Like I was really young when I first saw the movie. My second viewing was much, like a couple of years later or whatever. The DVD came out, I think, like around 2001. I ended up buying it at a place like Checkouts, which was like a kind of like a flea market, but like a shop flea market or whatever.
Yeah.
It had, usually you could find like movies for $1.
Yeah.
Like, some really.
That's how Big Lots used to be.
I know
And Ollie's and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
but this is like different. Like this is like everything was used.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But yeah, I mean that's really all the me gushing over it. Do you want to read the back of the VHS?
Let's see here. George Newman is a daydreamer whose hyperactive imagination keeps him from holding a steady job until he becomes the general manager of Channel 62, a local television station his uncle wins in a poker game. Unfortunately, the station is about 1 week away from bankruptcy. In a moment of desperation, George makes janitor Stanley Spadowski the star of a dull children's show and stumbles onto a ratings goldmine. Who else would treat lucky kids to a drink from a high-pressure fire hose? Stanley Spadowski's Playhouse is just weird enough to attract an audience. Before long, endless reruns have been replaced with bizarre programming that could only have come from one place, George Newman's unique imagination. Shows like Wheel of Fish, Name That Stain, Conan the Librarian, The Wonderful World of Phlegm, and Raoul's Wild Kingdom, where poodles learn to fly from a third-story window. But as Channel 62's ratings start to rise, so does the wrath of TV mogul R.J. Fletcher, who wants to buy the station and turn it into a parking lot. Can Channel 62 come up with the money it needs to stay on the air? George Newman's imagination is the only place you can find out. The end. They wrote a whole damn story on the back. Jesus. Why watch the movie when you can just read the back? Ugh. Rude. For anyone that reads this. Literally, you don't even need to watch the movie now. You can fast forward to the last 20 minutes and golden. The back of the VHS.
I mean, even the back of the VHS is funny when it gets down to the part where the different types of TV shows. Yeah. Name That Stain.
I know. You mostly like Conan Conan.
The Conan the Librarian. Yeah.
Barbarian the Librarian.
Conan the
I know, but he's a barbarian.
Yeah. Well, it's Conan the Barbarian, but it's Conan the Librarian.
I know. I get the spin up. I didn't miss the memo. I promise.
All right. Well, we can get into it.
That's like the meme. Are you fucking dumb? Me. We'll just
tell everybody about it because she's been laughing over this damn meme for the last 4 days.
We'll put it here. It's like a screenshot of Sid from Ice Age, and it's like, "Are you fucking dumb?" And then it's me, and then it's the picture of Sid. We'll put it here for my entertainment. So good.
Literally, she laughed over this for 30 minutes yesterday.
I was crying. It was the other day, but yeah. Anyways, so back to UHF.
Yes.
They could have used Stanley in that meme. Nonetheless. So the movie kicks off with Indiana Jones opening, which is kind of funny.
Indiana Jones,
my bad. Which is kind of funny because that came out the summer that this was going to... Well, the sequel came out.
That was... Okay, so The Last Crusade was coming out the same summer, and they actually put together a movie clip. I mean, like a trailer or whatever you want to call it to release with the movie to capitalize on the Indiana Jones coming out during the summer. So they did a lot of the beginning until you see his face. That was one of the first teaser kind of trailers for the movie.
Yeah.
Which they thought oh, this is gonna be so good because it's coming out this summer and people won't even know it's not even an Indiana Jones movie. Well, I mean, for the hair, for God's sake.
Well, yeah. I don't think they were fooling anybody.
No, this part's hilarious. You got the part where the guy's
I'm not saying it's not funny. You're just saying I don't think they were fooling anybody.
But the part's it's hilarious. Where the one guy's is sir, we can't go much farther, and it shows you the ancient god emblem with a crazy face, whatever, and he runs off and
then
leaves.
Gets hit by the train, which would be nowhere in Egypt.
Yeah. Or he lassos the guy's arm. He whips the guy's arm right off. This movie. It is kind of violent. There is no blood, but it is a little violent.
No, I didn't take it as violent.
But like I said, I did see this pretty young. I want to say I had to be at least 7, probably. My first viewing. I think I was 10 for my second viewing.
Yeah. But yeah, so after that rendition of Indiana Jones.
Well, they do a really good job too to mock the movie.
Pardon me.
What?
You said Indiana Jones?
But you should know it's Indiana Jones. This is a typo.
Our note says Indian Jones.
Okay, but she should know it's You saw the movie.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda, but you wrote the notes.
You saw the movie, though.
I did. And I paid attention. A little bit each time. Anyway, so George and his friend Bob, you see them at their job, which is a burger joint, which is Big Edna's burger joint. And George is daydreaming. And then starts rambling to Bob about his daydream or how he could be somewhere better.
Basically, yeah, his daydream is the Indiana Jones sequence.
Yeah.
And then
and he burns the fries, and then they start talking, not trash about Big Edna, but about how you're going to be in big trouble because you burnt the fries, George. And she ends up tossing both of them out. And George and Bob go back to their apartment in George's little vehicle, little
Yeah.
tiny car.
Oh, I didn't even look. Is it a Gremlin or something? I think it's I don't know.
Oh, I don't
I
know.
meant to look it up. What kind of vehicle it is?
I don't know cars.
But yeah, it's definitely like a foreign car.
Yeah.
But
So they get to they get to their apartment, which is above a karate studio, as the beginner karate fighters, whatever.
students.
Yes, students. I don't know why I put a blank. Karate students are getting thrown out the window.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the Asian actor from Pretty in Pink. You know what's going on, hot stuff.
Yeah.
I forget what his name. He's also in Vamp too as well. Yeah, it's his character is very funny where he just like because like that was another thing is like when this movie came out, it was quotable in
Yeah.
kids, and there was a lot of like at one point like during one thing I read was like kids were getting in trouble for just like saying their friends are like stupid, so
Oh, yeah.
stupid. But it's also funny because like you know it's a lot of physical comedy.
Yeah.
And also before that like George finds a crowbar and he's just like, that's it. I want you to take this crowbar and just bash me in the head with it.
Yeah, I said this to Logan last night when we were rewatching it like one last time. And that's the one thing I don't really like. I don't like the yelling.
Yeah, I can understand how it can
George,
be
like,
a little bit
especially
annoying. Yeah.
Yeah, especially in like the next scene, he goes to his girlfriend Terry's house and he's just like screaming about how he's stupid and he lost
Yeah.
his job. And I'm like, that's a little much.
But
Too
yeah.
loud.
But so they make it back to their apartment. They're looking through the want ads, and that is when the Twinkie Wiener sandwich. Is it? That's when the Twinkie Wiener sandwich is invented in the movie. I don't have a cup of milk and I'm not dipping in milk because that does sound foul. So I won't.
Oh, that sounds foul.
So I guess I'm not doing it 100% to the movie. But I am going to eat one of these at the end. But
Alone.
alone. Anyway, back to the movie. So yeah, so they're looking through the want ads because it's just like George he can't be in a job for more than a week.
Yeah, and it sucks because like
He's taking Bob down with him.
Yeah, I'm like, Bob, why you used to get a separate job from George? Obviously, this isn't working out. Because back at the burger joint, Bob goes through all the different jobs George has had so far, and it's like, well, Bob, what have you been doing?
I guess they're just really good friends. They just do.
Yeah,
They
do
live
it
together.
together,
They do it
yeah.
together. Which is pretty cool because like he gets the studio and what's he first do? Brings his buddy Bob
Yeah, I
on
get
with
that.
him. But yeah, so he actually ends up finding out he's late because a man punches through the wall and he reads the
Yeah.
clock on his wrist, and he needs to go meet up with his girlfriend Terry, which he's kind of a little reluctant to let her know that he's been fired yet once again.
Yeah.
And she's just kind of like, she's like, I know you're very intelligent, you're very smart and creative.
While she's doing this, he's making a giant mound of mashed potatoes, which I love. Potatoes.
He's like, for potatoes, my favorite. You shouldn't have, and takes the entire pot to
Yeah.
the dinner
And
table.
it's such a cute little pot. It's the mushroom series.
Yeah,
of
yeah.
pots. Anyways, yeah, and he's like, as she's trying to like be motivational towards him or whatever, pick him back up
Yeah.
and tell him, that he's going to figure something out, but he does need to figure something out. He's just like chipping away, making a giant hill out of mashed potatoes.
Yeah. He's like, this means something here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then it cuts over to a dinner party with his aunt and uncle, which I do know they did say that there was several scenes cut from the film, and that the director was interviewed and they asked him, do you think in the future, because especially with like, this is the Shout Factory Blu-ray I got right here. This is the 25th anniversary, and they have the 30th or 35th anniversary. I can't remember. There's a 40th anniversary. No, it's not 40th anniversary. The 35th. They have the 35th anniversary 4K now. I don't have that one. I
was gonna say, if it came out the year you were born,
yeah,
it's not
I'm
40.
not 40 because I'm not 40.
Yeah.
That's the math that had to go in my head before I corrected myself.
Gotcha.
But yeah, they asked him about a director's cut. And he was like, listen here, the stuff that was cut from the movie was supposed to be cut from the movie. Like it was stuff like that's why it was cut. Not every director's cut has got special goodness still in it. Some of the stuff that's useless needs to be cut. So it kind of
Unless
doesn't.
it's the Snyder Cut. People went like wild. I feel like about wanting to see the Snyder Cut.
It was great. I love the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
Um,
Nonetheless. But yeah, so are you done talking about the
No, yeah. So yeah, we go to the aunt and uncle's house, and which his aunt loves him to death. She just loves George. Basically she's like, you know what? Don't worry, George. You're gonna find something. You're very creative. Anyone would be lucky to have you. At the same time, his uncle likes to gamble and actually wins a UHF studio. Channel
TV
30,
station
TV station channel 32, which for UHF, so
you mean 62?
yeah, 62. Yeah. So UHF, so there's VHF and UHF. They used to come in through your TV. UHF channels were typically your local channels that had it was a high frequency but it had a short range. So typically the people that could receive them were very close to the studio, and typically these studios didn't have a lot of money to have like big access show, and that's why like channel 8, which is a VHF's. Typically UHF are higher numbers, VHF or shorter numbers.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot more money. They're a huger, bigger studio. So that's why they keep on, they make reference like, I'm not going to lose out to some UHF station. So that's kind of like a little like history. That's kind of like the background to that. But yes, he wins it in a poker game, and he's just going to get rid of it. And that's when his aunt has the idea. It's like, hey, George?
I have the perfect person for it.
Yeah.
But while she and George's uncle are coming to terms with that option, it pans over and George is holding their little Jack Russell, trying to like force it to drink the punch from the party. And
when he tells him to come over, he just drops the dog in the punch bowl.
Yeah, her dog. So later that evening, his uncle leaves. I think he said to like California or something like that. But he gives George the keys to the station, or the headquarters for the channel. And George and Terry head off to it. And it's a super so they pull up down this dark driveway, and it's this super sketchy looking building.
Yeah.
And George is like, oh, it's safe. Like the door's already open, which questionable.
Yeah.
And they go in and they find like this pretty much like science laboratory type setup. And that's when we meet Philo, who is their chief engineer.
Yeah.
And a really weird guy.
Yeah, he's very unordinary.
Yeah, and then you get another funny scene where Philo, I think I'm saying his name.
Philo.
Philo has George, I'm forgetting names. George hold these two sticks and then electrocutes him essentially.
Yeah, he electrocutes him and he's looking to close the circuit. He's like, hold these right here for a second. And he turns it on and the electricity goes through him or whatever. And he turns it off. He goes, yeah, it worked. It's just like, I don't know. It worked. It's like I said, like this movie, this movie is just full.
The homeless man.
Yeah, it's this movie's just full of good bits. And yeah, like the homeless man. Perfect.
So when they first got to the station, there's a homeless man that comes up. He's like, change, please. You got change. And George, I keep wanting to call him Weird Al. That's why I keep pausing. George goes to give him change, and he gives him pretty much $1, and then the homeless man gives him $1. He gives him $1 in change.
He gives him change, and then he takes his money out and he counts his, all right, 85, 95, 100, $1, and then he gives him the dollar back. Bill. Yeah, he gives $1 back, and then he keeps the change.
Like literally, he just wanted change for $1 bill.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
And that pays off for George later in the movie. So now it's Bob and George's first day at the station, and you get to meet one of my favorite people on this planet, who is the star of The Nanny, Fran. And she is pretty much kind of like the receptionist of the news station.
She
wanted to be the news anchor.
She's the receptionist of the station, and she's complaining that, basically they've had managers left and right. And she's like, how am I going to move up to do the news when I have a new boss every other week?
Yeah.
And, she's just unloading onto George. And that's when he's just like, okay. Here's my friend Bob, just completely ignores what she says. it's funny because throughout the movie, you get commercials that are being shown on Channel 62. And those commercials that is the best part of the entire movie. The commercials and some of the skits are amazing, but the commercials, like this commercial, we get Crazy Eddie's car commercial. And basically it's J- um, John Cadenhead from Ernest Scared Stupid,
Yeah.
Tom Tulip, which is funny because he's kind of like playing like almost like the same kind of character, where he's just basically like a what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Basically, he's like playing like the same kind of character, like this, like kind of like not like corrupt salesman or whatever, but like
Yeah.
this kind of like crooked guy, where he's basically he tries to get people to come down to the car lot to
Yeah,
buy
he's gonna
cars,
club a seal.
or he's going to club a seal, which is kind of demented if you think about it. But
Not kinda.
but yeah, no, like the commercials are great. So we find out that a box has been delivered to the studio that actually belongs to Channel 8. So George takes it upon himself that he's going to actually, instead of dropping it off at the post office to get sent there, he's going
Which
to.
Fran warns him that
Yeah,
the guy at Channel 8 sucks.
yeah, so he's going to actually go drop it off in person. He's like, it's good to meet the competition, kind of talk, and so forth like that. So he goes in to Channel 8 to drop off the box. Meanwhile, at the same time, there's been an incident. We meet all the characters of the Channel 8 and JR being the head of the station. There, he's looking for a expense report, and it is not on his table like it's supposed to be. And the only rational idea is that the janitor, who is Stanley Pasowski, which is Michael Richards, he has thrown it away or whatever.
Yeah.
And basically he calls him in to ask him where it's at, and he doesn't believe him, even though he had nothing to do with it. He's like, you know what, you idiot, you're just fired or whatever.
Yeah.
And he fires him, which, obviously Michael Richards, great like body humor,
Yeah.
Kramer, for God's sakes. I mean, and it's just, he really is a funny man, and he does a really good job at doing this type of body humor. Stanley's a great character. And so, yeah, so George walks in while basically Stanley is getting fired. And he tries to have a conversation with RJ to let him know he has his box. Well, we get a good idea. RJ just doesn't want to hear any shit from him. And he's going to threaten to call the police because he doesn't work there and he's loitering, whatever. So as George leaves, he sees Stanley in the hallway and see how he's upset. He asks him what he's doing and what's wrong with him. He lets him know that he's been fired, and he's like, ever since he was little, he wanted to be a janitor. He was given a mop when he was 10 years old and stuff like that. So George is like, you know what? Here, we need a janitor. I'll hire you.
Yeah.
And then so now we got another member to the crew, which is Stanley. So after Stanley gets hired, we get cut to actually now Pam has actually been promoted to the news job that she wanted. And it's really funny because we find out that their cameraman is a little person. So the camera angle is coming from the ground, which is very comical when it's recording and stuff like that. And
but she does her first like on-site news anchor.
Yeah, I think they're trying to.
episode.
It's either the governor or the mayor they're interviewing and trying to.
Of course, Channel 8 is there with, I guess, like his son RJ and his son, or maybe it's just
his son. Yeah, it's just his son.
Just his son and the other guy from the station. And so you get this like upward shot of Pam. I want to call her Fran. Pam, and like horrible shot. No one wants to be filmed from that angle, but it's a little person. So they're trying to like weave through the crowd, and obviously people from Channel 8, being like the a-holes that they are, end up knocking the cameraman down. Does he have a name?
I didn't write it down.
End up knocking
like Herbert or something like that.
End up knocking the cameraman down and breaking the camera.
Yeah, it's really mean.
So Pam stops what she is doing and tries to tend to him, and pretty much tells them that like they're jerks, and they tell her that like women shouldn't be in newscasting.
Yeah, broads shouldn't be in broadcasting or whatever. And then it's really funny because right before this, we get another little funny of the homeless man again, and he's sitting on a park bench. And
with the blind man that's doing a Rubik's Cube.
You just hear, no. And as it pulls out, it's a blind man doing a Rubik's Cube. And then he just does one move, hands it off. Nope.
Shows them, yeah.
Nope. It's hilarious.
Then you go back to the station, and this is where you get your first live show with essentially a wood shop teacher.
Yeah,
Like
it's basically Weird Al. He's interviewing a woodshop teacher to get some pointers on how to to do woodworking or whatever. And it's actually a famous comedian from that era, Emo Phillips, which is the character he's portraying in the movie is actually a character he used to portray. That was his comic act. He would be this kind of person. I don't really know if he's really like that, or if he's just like kind of milking it a little bit.
Yeah.
But like, this is exactly how his little stand-up act was. He's really big in the 80s, and he did a lot of writing, and he recently just did a new comedy special not too long ago, I think, for Comedy Central. But yeah, so while he's showing him demonstrate how to use a table saw, he cuts his thumb off, which it's hilarious because blood's just going everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like I said, like this scene is a little graphic.
Yeah, George is the only one freaking out, and the guy's like, "Oh." Well.
He's like, just call me Mr. Butterfingers.
Yeah.
Oh, is my face red?
Yeah. Then you get the next show up, which is Uncle Nut's Clubhouse. And yeah, so you get the kickoff of
Nutsy. Uncle Nutsy's Clubhouse.
Oh.
Yeah.
Correction. Again. The notes.
Oh, damn. Well, you should remember.
2 for 2.
You should remember from the movie. Anyway.
I don't. You get the tiny details. I don't.
But yeah, it's
all I care about is Fran.
But I want to bring it up just before we get into Uncle Nutsy's Clubhouse. But like right before that, once again, we get another great commercial, which is one of my favorite commercials. It's just Spatula City. Oh, that's so apparently. They actually found an old storefront and they put all that fake stuff on the front of it to make it look like a real storefront. They even did a real billboard. And at the shopping center, when the movie was done, they left everything there. They left it up. They didn't tear it down. At the shopping center, people were getting so annoyed and filing so many complaints. So many people were walking in other stores like, what's this Spatula City? It's not open. And people were the other people working there were getting so annoyed with people asking questions. They filed multiple complaints for them to eventually come and tear it down. But there's a part which is like, it's so funny where where it says where it's like, spatula is a good gift for any kind of occasion. Nothing says I love you than a gift of a spatula. I have been saying that like all my life. It's like one of those little things where it just like sits in the back of your head. I've said it so many times.
4 years.
No, that's not true. I've said it so many times. You just might not have been listening.
Touche.
But
love ya. Nothing says love like a spatula.
Where's my spatula?
We got plenty. We got wooden ones, silicone ones. We're good. I got you.
But yeah, so we get to Uncle Nutsy's Playhouse. This scene where that kid spits in his face.
Yeah.
Oh, that kid really spit in his face.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Ugh. That part kind of grossed me out a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I can't do spit.
Yeah.
I even feel throw up. I can't do throw up either.
I don't mind throw up, whatever.
My spit is just like, ugh. But yeah, so it's basically George is trying to come up with new, fresh programming because the problem so far has been like they just show a bunch of reruns. There's no like real new shows. So he's just writing stuff and filming it basically.
Yeah.
And that's what this was, Uncle Nutsy Playhouse, which, what was it? What was the clown? Not Bobo.
Bozo?
Bozo the Clown
Yeah.
was really big. I watched Bozo the Clown all the time when I was little.
I didn't do clowns.
Oh, I love Bozo the Clown. Loved it. He actually lived
Absolutely not.
He actually lived in Colombia.
Burn it down.
No, it's funny because they used to win stuff if you like the bucket game and shit. Oh man, I love Bozo. I wasn't scared of clowns.
Lucky you.
I know a lot of people were, but I was never scared of clowns.
Yeah, and then it just made it worse. But that's what I get for being up my sister's butt, for being a little sister.
But yeah, so he's doing Uncle Nutsy's Clubhouse or whatever, and it's not really going well. The kids really don't care about it, and his Bob comes in as a dog or whatever, mascot dog, and whatever. He ends up hitting him with the fire. He hits him with the fire and playing by to be funny. Actually, Weird Al actually didn't hold back enough and actually hit him in the face with a frying pan and got a busted lip. And the take that we got is the only take they ever took of the.
Well, yeah, I'm not gonna let you fake.
So his
slash real
reaction
hit
is
me.
real. Like he is really
Yeah.
upset. Like it really hurt him. So like he is not happy. And if you look lucky enough that he did have red makeup on, so you can't really see the blood. But if you look really close, his lip is pretty mashed.
Huh.
And then, but like I said, the take was so good they didn't ask him to retake it.
Yeah.
But
I
that's
wouldn't retake it.
well, it's hilarious because like he ends up eating the dog treats instead of
Yeah.
cookies and whatever. This movie is there's so much stuff in this movie, and I feel like I want to
Yeah,
talk
there's
about
no way to
everything.
cover every single
It's
thing.
not, but there's so
I'll
many.
stop
funny.
you now.
It's so funny. But yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you can proceed.
Yeah. So, well, you didn't get to the whole him interrupting for Terry's.
Well, yeah. Well,
message.
yeah. So basically, yeah. So like after this, it cuts to Terry. She is a dental assistant. She's cleaning teeth or whatever. And there's this funny Pam once again is back, and she is interviewing the head of like a gun organization or whatever,
Yeah.
a gun club. And he's like, she's like, well, what are your feelings on gun rights? And she's like, listen here. She's like, gun rights are for pansies and commies. I don't, he goes, guns don't kill people. I do. Yeah. And then this commercial gets interrupted by a special bulletin report, which is basically a nice little sweet message for Terry, which I thought was awesome. I would, if I owned a local station and I knew that if I knew that you had it on while you were at work.
If you had a station, I'd listen to it. Just not this podcast.
But yeah, I do stuff like that. It's funny. You own that. You run and say you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. It's your station.
You
can talk about me all you want.
Growing up in Tennessee, I used to love watching the local stations.
Yeah.
Like it's mainly for the commercials for the local. Like there's a mattress place. So
that's what I like about going to your parents' house because they still watch like cable TV sometimes. So you get like your local dealership commercials.
Yeah.
And like on Thanksgiving, we got like the parade. When we went there during COVID, we got like the parade stuff. But then we also got like your normal like local news commercials for like medical offices or stores.
Well, the famous mattress store that's on a corner in Tennessee, in Columbia, and it's always like the mattress guy or whatever. And it's so funny because he's a pretty like noticeable guy. He's a very large man or whatever. But it's funny because like me and Cameron would be riding up and like driving through the square, and he'd be walking down, and we were like, "Hey, this mattress guy!" And he would be like they love that.
That's
they
like
love
the
it.
Caesar's guy. Yeah, we haven't seen him in a while.
Oh yeah,
would always be on the corner of Mountain Road.
Yeah, I always wave at him.
Yeah, he always waves back. I think he does a sushi place now.
Oh.
Because that guy's overly happy too. I'm like, there ain't too many happy sign guys
Well,
around.
there's the computer guy that used to be really happy, and he with his headphones and just like constant. I'm talking like hours doing the same motion, waving to all the traffic.
Nonetheless, anyways, so then George falls asleep, and we get like such a good like retro video scene.
It's a complete ripoff of Money for Nothing by Dire Straits. Complete ripoff. Even the music video is completely like almost exactly. And the song's great. The Beverly Hillbilly song. Yeah. Which I was talking to Becca. Some of those shows are really good and they still hold up.
Yeah.
Beverly Hillbillies is hilarious.
Yeah.
I love watching those kind of shows. I used to watch them on TV Land a lot and stuff like that. Now TV Land like shows George Lopez, which is not that wasn't a TV Land show when I was little. You know what I mean?
Nothing like waking up at like 3 a.m.
You know, the freaking low.
Yeah, my parents forgot to put like the timer on my TV. I'd stay up and watch it. I love George Lopez. The show. But so he is streaming and you get this like very cool kind of like retro music video thing. But he wakes up to some really bad news.
Yeah, Bob has informed him that no way you cut it. They are constantly losing money and they will have to close the doors by the end of the week or something like that. And he is distraught, upset, and then
to kick him while he's down.
He realizes he forgot to go to the dinner that he planned with Terry and her parents.
So Terry calls and just lets him know that she never wants to see him again. Never again. So George is just really, really upset. He's going to lose the station. He lost Terry. He is just... He's hopeless at this point.
He's depressed, and also he is still Uncle Nutsy, and he's trying to record an episode, and he's just not feeling it, and he...
I feel you.
Not
on this one, but we've had those before where we're like, we can't. We need to try again tomorrow. It happens.
He basically just cuts during the middle of the episode, cuts to commercial, and walks away.
Toesies.
My foot touched Becca's foot. That's... For the audio listeners and video, obviously y'all can't see what happens.
This ain't that kind of video.
We gonna do it twice now?
I think we have done a feet thing before.
Well, it was accident. Well, this was accident too. So
yeah, I'm not holding your
toes down here. But
stay here and record.
So he walks off, and he's like, hey Stanley, you want your own TV show? He's like, okay. And he goes out there, and George and Bob, they go to the bar, and he's like, I don't know what to do. And, I don't know what to do. I'm trying to come up with good ideas. Nothing's sticking.
And truly, Stanley runs on like 2 brain cells. He's not really the person you want to vent to unless you just literally want to vent.
Well, he's not venting to Stanley. He's venting to Bob.
Oh,
Stanley's doing the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's venting to Bob, and
because he threw everything at Stanley and was just like, you do it.
Yeah. So he's talking to Bob, and basically, let me order a stiff drink, but you don't drink. Well, it's about the time to start.
I started, yeah.
And he gets a daiquiri or whatever, and all of a sudden, people are hustling, bustling at the bar, and they're like, "All right, he's back on, everybody! He's back on, everybody! Turn it up, turn it up!" Yeah. And he finds out. People love Stanley.
Yeah, people love him.
People
love those 2 brain cells.
Yeah.
So Stanley ends up being a hit. So much so that while George and Bob are creating new shows and talking about different lineups and trying to save the show, essentially, Bob, while looking over the reviews or like the statistics and stuff that got sent out from the channel, realize that they're number 1. However, prior to doing that, they start their list of some of like just the most craziest show names on the planet.
We get Will of Fish, which was a real will with real fish. Those aren't fake fish, they're real fish. Apparently, they set up the wheel at 6 o'clock in the morning in the studio to make sure it would actually spin when they spin around.
Yeah.
They came back to film the scene at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
So all the fish were dead.
Of course, they were all dead. They were already dead. To attach them to the wheel.
Yeah, I know.
But no, the entire studio smelled like stinky ass fish, which was funny because like there's a lot of behind the scenes where people are literally wearing nose plugs because it smelled so bad to film that scene.
You couldn't just use fake fish?
Well, it was cheaper to use real fish than to have fake fish made.
But they're already dead.
That doesn't make it. That's what they do with money. Regardless, they're already dead. They still cost more money.
If they just grabbed a bunch of fish and were like, "We're just going to kill these just for."
They're already dead, baby. They bought them from the fish people. They're dead. They didn't buy a live fish and let them die.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was asking.
No,
I was making sure of that.
No. FEMA wouldn't allow them to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, good. Anyways, back on topic. Is this also where he does like the? Oh, I don't think it's where he pulls the booger out of his nose. It's a fake booger.
No, that's later. That's
next,
later. Yeah, but then we get a couple more shows like Secrets of the Universe, which is Philo's show.
And you get Raoul's. Yeah.
Wild Kingdom, which he has the funny get.
Yeah, it's pretty much a guy that's hoarding all these different pets, like exotic pets, normal pets, and that's where he also launches the poodle.
He's teaching poodles how to fly. And then also we find out that turtles are nature's suction cup.
Yeah. And he licks the turtle and throws it up on the ceiling. And then also when it pans out of Raoul's apartment, there's just a pile of dogs.
Of dead, dead
because
poodles.
He's throwing them out the window, thinking that they can fly.
So there was a scene that they wanted to film that they didn't get to film. And unfortunately, This is a sad turn, you guys, but
I'll do that.
well, it's
Put
true.
that thing back.
Well, the actor who played Raul, he actually was killed in a drunk driving accident. So there was actually some actual extra funny scenes, and he was actually kind of a bigger part, but they couldn't film it, and they didn't think it was right to get a lookalike to film the scenes.
Oh yeah.
So they just cut them from. But there was going to be a funny scene where the poodles get their revenge, and they come, they all attack him. It does suck because that would have been really kind of funny.
Well, yeah, that also sucks that he died in a driving.
Well, of course, that's
rough.
That's a given, baby.
Why do you gotta put a damper on the episode with that?
Well, I mean, it's kind of it's just facts.
Nah, people know. People know if they want to know. Anyways, back on the upside of things, because this is a comedy. So back at Channel 8, RJ gets word of how good it seems that Channel 62 is doing.
Yeah, and he's just ignoring it.
Yeah, essentially he thinks that's a joke. There's no way. They're so minor. They don't even matter to him. Kind of too good for them. They're never gonna be a chip off my shoulder.
I'm too busy to worry about some UHF station.
Yeah.
And this is also when we get the funny scene where the guy walks in, he's wearing a cowboy hat, and he's trying to hey, I just need to let you know. He's like, I'm too busy. Now leave. And then while he's leaving, he's like, by the way, take that ridiculous thing off. And you think it's going to be the cowboy hat, but then he tears off a fake mustache.
Yeah.
Like I said, you don't have SpongeBob without this kind of humor. This is like this. Tell me this does not radiate Patrick and SpongeBob. Okay. Well, all right. I asked the wrong person. You're just supposed to automatically agree with me. Come on.
No, life's not that easy.
We should rehearse these episodes before we film.
Why? It's fun. So yes, I do see some cross things. It also definitely gives off Three Stooges vibes, which I think definitely came before this.
Yeah. I mean that's slapstick, but I would I said I the whole time I watch this, I really do feel the jokes from SpongeBob, some of the dumb jokes that Family Guy uses, and stuff like that, the one-offs, because that's all Family Guy is. Storyline, cut to something random. Storyline, cut to something random. It's definitely the same equation that they're in, the same comedy equation or whatever. I don't know. I really feel like people, it's hard not to say that those individuals are not influenced by something like this.
I understand that. I can definitely see that. So back at the studio, they as in George and Bob are setting up pretty much what looks like a
new lineup
bracket. Yeah, a new lineup.
Their new hourly lineup.
Yeah, so you get to see even more crazy names and things like that. And Bob, they get delivered their feedback, essentially, of
the ratings.
Yeah, the ratings. And Bob breaks the news to George that Stanley's show is number 1.
Yeah.
So they've beat out all the other stations or networks, and it's number 1. So that is such a saving grace for them, at least they think so, because...
Well, they finally get to make money.
Yeah, they finally get to make money and maybe show the value in keeping the studio.
Exactly.
So along with finding out that they're number 1, obviously, you get to see even more commercials related to their network, which Logan loves the commercials.
Well, the commercials are great. You get Conan the Librarian, which is hilarious. He once again, we get the kind of the violent scene where the guy gets cut in half because his book is way past due. You get Bowling for Burgers. I don't know. For some reason, I find that funny. And then there's strip solitaire, which I don't know how you take your clothes off. I guess if you can't beat the solitaire.
And then you get Practical Joker and bloopers, where you get the guy that just trips the old lady.
He's just being an asshole. That's not Practical Joke. That's just being an asshole.
Yeah. So RJ finds out that they are number 1, and he then goes to George's uncle to try to get George's uncle to sell him the network. So he's pretty much well, they're not going to be number 1. I'm just going to take them out completely and just destroy their station.
Yeah, so basically...
get rid of them.
George's uncle fell in some hard times because all his horses that he bet on didn't come through, and he owes $75,000, which RJ is willing to pay him $75,000 for the studio. And George basically... tells his aunt what's going on. He doesn't understand because RJ comes in. He starts measuring stuff. And he's like, I'm just going to tear this studio to pieces because Bob brings up, he's like, you can't have 2 You can't two rivaling studios. You can't own two rivaling studios.
Yeah.
He goes, well, that's fine. I'll just turn it into a parking lot. So George calls his aunt to let her know. She rings out the uncle.
Yeah.
And he agrees to give George 2 days to get the $75,000. Okay. Now, best commercial for the entire freaking movie. We get town talk. All right. So it's kind of like a Jerry Springer or some kind of show where
like Jerry Springer.
They're like Jerry Springer, where it's harsh topics, trying to get down to the bottom of things, asking questions that no one's comfortable with asking.
Maury, like what? Maury,
more like Jerry.
Springer.
More like Jerry. Yeah, because he opens up to where he's like,
nothing better than staying home sick and getting to watch those shows.
Yeah, I used to watch them more later in life because Maury was always like, "You're not the father" and stuff like that. But yeah, that's why. Yeah, it kind of feels like that. Where George, his first question of the episode is like, sex with furniture. What are your thoughts about it? It's like, who's fucking have sex with furniture?
Who knows?
And then we get another funny thing where he's like, George also opened the compartments of Al Capone's glove box.
Yeah.
Which there's a lot of 80s references in this film for the time, pop culture. Al Capone's not his lunchbox. There's a big thing where Geraldo Rivera opened Al Capone's vault. It was a big televised event, and it was all over the news. Everyone can't wait to dial in to watch it that night to figure out what is in Al Capone's vault. I think 1986 is when this happened. So this movie's from 89. So the funny thing that they would bring up the Al Capone's glove box and whatever, it's very funny. And it's funny because also if you're familiar with it, like when they opened the vault, there was jack shit in it. There was nothing in it. It was this whole big bust.
Yeah.
So it's funny how they would make fun of something like that. And then cuts back. He's like, George also blew the roof off of Satanism, and where he's talking to Satan, just ripping him.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to another episode where there's a guest. And there's a skinhead, a Ku Klux Klan member, a hooker, and a Girl Scout, and a serial killer, basically a fake Jason character.
Yeah.
And they just start going at it like Jerry Springer. It's really funny if you watch it. Like one of the guys just throws a chair at George, just breaks.
The kid's just biting the serial killer's leg.
It's hilarious. And then at the end of the episode where he's got like bandages all over his face because he's been beat up, whatever.
Yeah.
The next episode is lesbian Nazi hookers abducted by UFOs and forced to weight loss programs. I understand it's not that funny just describing something to you, but whatever. Like
if people have watched it,
it's hilarious. I cried laughing every time this part. Like I said, if you haven't seen this movie, watch that one clip, and I swear you'll be hooked. But I've talked enough. You can go.
Yeah. So, mind you, they have 2 days to get $75,000. So Channel 62 decides to do a telethon to earn the money over the next 72 hours. They are doing great. They have Stanley starring in it. They have Pam, Bob, George, as well as other people working the telephones, as well as people coming in to make donations. And pretty much you pay $10, you get a share of the channel. And that contributes to the $75,000 to keep the channel up and running. However, they get halfway through and you get a scene like Rocky where George is trying to like give Stanley water and like pump him up and stuff while he's sitting in his chair.
He's like, can I get you anything? He goes, oh, can I get some Play-Doh?
Yeah. He tries to get him to spit out the water like a fighter would do. He swallows it. And George turns his back on Stanley to go get him, I don't know, Play-Doh. I don't know. He's not in the scene anymore.
Yeah. And then
Stanley gets kidnapped.
He gets kidnapped because a guy comes to the door with pizza. And he's like, oh, yeah, pizza.
They fake a delivery pizza person and kidnap Stanley. And then you also get like a negotiation in the car where the passenger just wants to kill Stanley. He's just like kill happy for some reason. And it happens again back at the destination.
Mind you, Stanley still thinks he's getting pizza.
Yeah. It takes him
because he's blindfolded and everything.
Yeah.
You know who Stanley is? Stanley's the embodiment of Cruz.
Probably.
Our dog, our husky.
And then you also get a Gandhi commercial where Gandhi now chooses violence.
Yeah, it's Gandhi 2. So
Yeah.
Gandhi came out in 1981. 1982. And which was a very, very popular film. And now this is Gandhi 2. And it's like Rambo 2.
Yeah.
And it's just like this huge action scene. It's hilarious. It reminds me a lot of the bit from Family Guy. When Family Guy went off the air and it came back on the air, the first episode they came back, they had a funny joke about Passion of the Christ 2. This time it's personal, where Jesus was basically running around killing people with guns and stuff like that. Which obviously I feel like that's obviously someone watched this movie and got the idea, just change it up a little bit. It's like that part where it's like, hey, you can copy my homework, but just change it up a little bit.
Yeah. So Terry then visits channel 8 to ask RJ to just like stop what he's doing, to not give the $75,000, just to let things go. And George then finds out and figures out that Stanley has been kidnapped by Channel 8 and goes Rambo. But before he does that, he decides to run to Channel 8 instead of driving his car. So he runs past his car into the street, and then you get this like transition from George, normal George, to Rambo George.
Which is funny to if you haven't listened, like we brought up earlier, our last episode where we talk about Rambo Part 2
with Dusty and Paul.
Yeah,
from Flicks and Friends.
First Blood Part 2, Rambo. What's called check it out, because we actually talked about this scene, because it's a very iconic scene in the movie, and you know it looks great. I mean, this is hilarious. Everything that they mock from the movie, the part where he blows the guy up with the arrow, where he's literally just standing right in front of him, he's shooting at him, he doesn't hit him, to the point where Stanley's like a POW. He rescues Stanley, gets him to the chopper, and he pulls out the big LMG and just starts shooting people away. And he starts blowing things up with the LMG, which makes no sense, because that's not. It's hilarious.
However, none of it works, and George gets caught too with Stanley.
Well, so yeah, this is all going on in his head.
Yeah,
you know,
he's back to being a daydreamer.
Yeah, he's daydreaming, and then like it gets to the funny part where he's just blowing everything up. And he's done the which is hilarious. And then it cuts to him running into the studio, going, and then they just like pull guns out on him. He's like, "Oh, all right, let's not get hasty. Let's talk about this."
Yeah. So thankfully, his karate master neighbor and his students come and save both George and Stanley, and they race it back to the studio to make it for the remainder of the telethon. However, there isn't much left in the telethon, and everyone's pretty much like burnt out there, and they're not getting any traction. It's kind of just been dead.
Yeah, they get back, and we're looking at there's about $2,000 to their goal.
Yeah.
He talks to his uncle and say, listen, he's like, I think we're going to be able to get the money. We just need a little bit more time. And uncle's like, listen here, I don't got more time. Some bad things are going to happen to me. And so at this same time, while they're presenting, RJ from Channel 8 is going to interrupt their broadcast and relay some awful slander news on Channel 62. But in the meantime, Philo has actually been recording RJ at Channel 8 and has his own smash piece, or whatever you want to call it.
Slander piece
to
ruin RJ.
Basically, yeah. And it's basically him talking.
Yeah.
It's him talking. It's his conversation with Terry where he says all the awful things about this, the channel and stuff like that, which makes him, obviously doesn't work well in his favor. And at the same time, he has giving early in the movie we talk about, but he gave the homeless man a penny, which turns out to be a really old penny that was worth over $2,000. He cashes it all out and he shows up to George. He's like, "Is there any?" He's like, he's like, George. He's like, "What? I'm busy right now. What do you need?" He goes, "Is there any more of those shares left?" He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "All right, I'd like to buy all the shares with this $2,000," which they end up getting all the money.
Yeah.
And so in the meantime, at this point, RJ showed up and he's trying to basically at the rally they're having outside the studio, and he's trying to basically shut it down. It's like, it's too late. It's too late.
Yeah, while he's getting up on stage and trying to slander them and also work with his George's uncle to sign the paperwork, get the signatures. George gets his last $2,000 and runs over to his uncle's buddy.
I don't know if it was Mr. Big or something. I can't remember what his name was.
Pretty much his like gambling man that he borrows money from.
His bookie.
Yeah, and runs over and gives him the $75,000.
Yeah.
And the crowd outroars and cheer and are all happy. And they kind of just like shuffle RJ off and shuffle him away when RJ gets confronted by some news
the station
regulator.
lead, the station owner or whatever.
Yeah.
Because he's the manager.
And gets told that he's fired.
Yeah.
And Channel 8 is shut down for good. So he is all upset and all bothered. He runs into the homeless guy again. The homeless guy explains to him that you gave me the penny that was worth $2,000 that saved Channel 62.
He's like, thank
and
you
I got
so
a
much.
Rolex, which early in the movie, RJ was saying how his next thing he was going to get with his cash was a Rolex. So RJ starts having this like breakdown. And while he's having this breakdown, Phil's like, I'm leaving now. Phil. It's like, I'm leaving now, and says his goodbyes. And they're like, where are you going? And he says he's going to some planet. And then he just like walks out to the field a little bit and just like zaps into
he turns into an alien and flies away, which is very funny because this felt like a lot like Pee-wee's Playhouse. Pee-wee's Big Adventure, the movie. With Large Marge or whatever her name was, and the truck driver or whatever. Yeah, but funny.
So then you get your happy ending. RJ gets tripped by the blooper guy and falls into a mud puddle and is just in hysterics. And fireworks go off and everyone celebrates the win for Channel 62.
Yeah, Terry comes back to George and she's like, he goes, I thought you never want to see me again. She's like, well, what got you that idea? She's like, when you told me you never wanted to see me again.
I get that. It'd be like that sometimes. And then you pretty much get a, Gone with the Wind ending.
Yeah, Gone with the Wind parody ending or whatever. But yeah, it's in the movie. Roll credits. Movie's over. Fantastic. Now, movie's over. We're done. What did you think about it, Becca?
It was pretty good. I like it. Like I said, the only part it was funny. I would watch it again. I watched it a couple times probably. I just didn't like the yelling, but that stops.
Yeah.
After he does like the yelling at Terry's house when he loses his job, he doesn't really do that kind of stuff anymore.
No, it's not a lot. Like that's like, I get what you're talking about because I don't like yelling a lot. That's like,
it just annoys me.
I really like F is for Family, but sometimes Bill Burr's rants, because he yells a lot, that show can kind of get a little bit too much. Same thing like if you're binge watching Seinfeld, towards the later seasons, I feel like just George yells all the damn time. And it does kind of get annoying. Same thing with Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad, towards the end of the season, like he just yells all the damn time at Jesse or at some other drug dealer, and it just the
yelling just gets under my skin after a little while. I don't like unnecessary yelling. It annoys me. But other than that, it was really good. And I mean, I liked it. I'd rewatch it. It's definitely a good feel good movie. It is funny.
It's very funny. I think it's very clever.
Ending.
Yeah, it's very clever. Some of the jokes, I feel like it has a lot of original jokes in it. Yes, there's spoofs, but some of the actual funny parts in it are hilarious. It's similar humor to, it's got like body humor. It's not as bad as like a Ace Ventura or something like that, but I can definitely see where I can definitely see where modern day comedies can definitely be inspired by some of the jokes here. And like I said, I still think how it's hard not to think that the people that wrote SpongeBob, especially the first couple of seasons with the original writer, it's hard not to think that they were not inspired by like UHF and stuff like that. Same thing with Seth MacFarlane and Family Guy. It's just, it's hard not to think that. It is one of my favorite comedies of all time. It's not one of my favorite movies of all time, but it is definitely one of my favorite comedies.
Yeah.
So it's the end.
You get to eat.
Now I'm going to try this Twinkie Wiener sandwich.
Hold on.
You sure you're not going to try it?
I'm not doing that.
Not just a bite? You don't have to swallow it. You can spit it out.
No, I'm good.
Really?
Yeah, I'll cheer you on. I got you. Not by eating that, though.
All right.
It'll be delicious.
I think it's going to be good. It's all stuck. That's falling apart.
The smell of these this whole entire episode, I've just been... I could just...
Let me get my napkin here so I don't get shit all over me.
Yeah.
All right. This is for you guys. It's hard to eat this not loud. I'm sure y'all don't hear it chewing in the microphone.
The little ASMR. Hear me just singing to the microphone. We can shut that off for this part. Oh, God. You're like really ASMRing it.
I'm not trying to. I'm just chewing it. Becca,
I don't like chewing sounds.
Becca doesn't like chewing sounds, so it's like almost impossible to eat around her.
That or breathing sounds.
She wants you by her, but she just wants you to be dead.
Yeah. Preferably.
It's really good. It's actually really good. I'm going
You're
back.
not going to do it again. You going to eat both?
No. That was supposed to be yours.
I don't know why you made me want to know this, what you were planning this whole time. He was like, yeah, but I got to get home and heat up both of them. Why?
I thought...
You thought wrong.
Listen here. Typically, I'll talk to Beck about something, and usually I can nudge her into doing something.
Not with food.
Usually you'll try something. Like, she'll be like, I don't want to try that. Please, just try it. I don't want to try it. I don't want to try it. Fine. And then you'll eventually cave in. I assume that this would be one of those situations.
No. I rarely cave, by the way. I'm pretty hard-headed.
It's good.
I mean, I told you it would be good. I mean, it's like a salty and sweet.
No, it's don't get me wrong. It does taste good. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Like, am I going to go on my way to make this again? No.
I'd hope not. You're like, is this going to be like on the weekly menu? No, but it's a little treat. Maybe.
Hey, all y'all at home, all right?
If you stayed this long.
Go home. Try it out. Try it out, guys. Try it out. See what you like. See if you like it.
Let us know.
Let us know in the comments. I would love to know everyone who's tried this.
Please.
It doesn't taste bad. Really, it doesn't. Like, it's the thing is I really don't taste anything.
Are those beef hot dogs?
Chicken
like all
hot
beef?
dogs. Chicken hot dogs.
I wonder if that would change the flavor.
I think hot dogs taste like hot dogs, regardless of the chicken or turkey. I think they all taste exactly the same, to be honest.
Well, I mean, they're not all just chicken and turkey.
I'm saying regardless if it's beef, chicken, or turkey.
Yeah, you get your like mixed meat ones.
I think they're all. I just think they literally taste the same. I can't tell if I had a chicken hot dog. I couldn't tell you it was a chicken hot dog.
I get that.
But really, I'm not gonna lie. Like I just really just get straight up Twinkie. I don't even taste the cheese. So now in this
episode of What Will Logan Eat, let's see what he does next time alone.
I just thought it'd be a good idea to, just
give a little taste.
A little taste, because it's a popular thing in the movie, and I thought it'd be a good idea. Like, hey, let's try it out. Let's try it out. And anyway,
not on the weekly menu, but maybe in a little.
It's not that bad. I don't think it's that bad. I'm not like I said, I'm not going to eat the other one, but
Good to know. But yeah, thank you guys for listening to this week's episode. Like always, please feel free to give us a like, subscribe, or rating, or all the above if you haven't already. We greatly appreciate it as it helps us get out there to other viewers as well. And of course, we appreciate you guys watching this episode.
Yeah, if there's any, to find out what we're up to and follow us along, we have our website.
Yes, as well as our social medias. And yeah, so we're out there whenever you guys are looking for us. And I don't know what we're doing next week or next time, so that'll be a surprise. Always is. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us this week. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.